With multiple new Star Wars TV shows on the horizon, such as Andor, Bad Batch 2, Tales of the Jedi, The Mandalorian Season 3, and even Ahsoka, a lot of Star Wars fans are also getting very excited and preparing for all of the major announcements that will take place by this fall at D23 and Disney Plus Day. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you also very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new Star Wars universe is that we already know that there's a lot of things happening between George, John, and Dave Filoni to really rework the Star Wars universe by essentially reviving Star Wars Legends and throwing that back into the mix and really making that officially canon under Disney and really kind of resetting the timeline of what happens in the entirety of the Skywalker saga and more. Now, everything related to the new Star Wars universe also is that they are also going to be bringing on a host of experienced writers, directors, creatives that will be handling Star Wars with Favreau, Filoni, and Lucas. So, everything after 2022, it sounds like it's going to be in good hands. I mean, so far the animated content is looking amazing. Tales of the Jedi, I think, is easily going to surpass Star Wars Rebels, to be very honest with you guys. But moving forward from all of this, one major plan that Disney does have in store has a lot to do with reworking the sequel trilogy, as we discussed a little over a year ago, and exactly what's been going on with that behind the scenes, and exactly what Disney executives have very, much, working on for the past year and a half, give or take. Now, on top of all of this, right, what's even all the more intriguing about this entire scenario, this entire project of what's happening right now, is that with the sequel trilogy ended, of course, and how it ended with a divided fan base back in 2019, Disney has since been trying to improve the Star Wars franchise and all of its upcoming Star Wars TV shows. However, it's described that one of the big projects that are currently still planned is the 4-hour cut of The Rise of Skywalker, which was on hold for a couple of months that is now finally moving forward again, and is now slated for an early 2024 release instead of a holiday of 23 release. One of the big plans by Disney executives is to complete the original scenes that involved Matt Smith that were only partially filmed back in 2019. Now, Matt Smith, in interviews at the time, was forced to state that he had never filmed scenes for Episode 9, when in reality he did to a degree. Matt Smith's role in Episode 9 was supposed to be a character dubbed simply as the Dark Acolyte, when in reality it was a young Palpatine vessel that Palpatine's spirit was going to travel into. This scene is now planned to be complete for the 4-hour cut of Episode 9, and that Disney is finding a way to make it officially canon in the planned 4-hour cut of the film, which will be home to both canon scenes and non-canon scenes. The plan by Lucasfilm is to add a little header in the beginning of each and every scene as to what is going to be labeled as canon and what will be considered not canon in the Star Wars universe. Now, this is described to be a new format or style that Disney is trying to innovate to just throw a bunch of scenes together in a story-driven fashion, while at the same exact time not leaving anything out at all. However, most of the scenes to be included will be considered canon. This scene, of course, and the scene involving Matt Smith is already storyboarded to be used in the 4-hour cut, where he is actually stored away in a cloning chamber that Palpatine activates using the Force, to where there is a scene that is taken directly from Star Wars Empire's End, where Palpatine's spirit literally leaves his aged body. Now, I don't know if you guys ever read up on Empire's End. I do suggest that you guys go ahead and check it out. Basically, it is the last issue of the Dark Empire comic line, and the shortest of them all. And in there is a moment where Han Solo kills an aged Palpatine because, well, that's what Palpatine needs. He needs to be killed for his spirit to escape, and as you can see, in Episode 9, they took inspiration from that, where he needed Rey to kill him for his spirit to escape. So, in the comics, Han Solo kills him, and he kills him with a blaster, no less. It's actually quite crazy, but his spirit leaves the body, and in an attempt to invade the child of Anakin Solo, we have this character Brand that intervenes and captures the spirit and dies along with him into the netherworld. They're trying to do something similar, yet totally different in a sense where this time around, Palpatine is actually going to be killed by Rey, technically speaking, just like we see in the final cut, except that's not going to be the last of him. So, moving forward from all of that, alright, this is where things begin to pick up, is that the way Disney plans to make it canon is that they are going to place this after the events of when Rey deflects the Force lightning back at Palpatine, and that he did not really die in that moment, where instead, his Sith spirit escapes and travels into his young clone body, also known as the Dark Acolyte. Here is when they plan to insert said scene, where Ben Solo comes up from the pit to save Rey, however fights the Dark Acolyte instead before using the Force, and before using the Life Force exchange technique as well. Now, there have been many variations planned for this scene over the past year or so, and so far by Disney, and how they are sticking with this one to be filmed in 2023. Matt Smith has already been approached by Disney to do this, and that it is 100% on board to include Favreau and Filoni. Now, Disney is planning to make it that Ben Solo was eventually destroyed, and of course, eventually destroys the young version of Palpatine's body, and ends the Sith once and for all, before rushing to Rey's aid to use the Life Force exchange. This is the best strategy in Disney's eyes to make Palpatine's death, once again by the hands of a Skywalker once more. Now, before I get to the next thing here, is that, obviously when you look at Episode 9, right from the get-go, it was already inspired from Dark Empire. Alright, that was always J.J. Abrams' plan from the very beginning. But in this scenario, they're really taking even more inspiration from how Dark Empire actually ends in the comic Empire's End, where basically, Palpatine's body dies, his Sith spirit escapes, and pretty much they're taking that, except doing something a little bit different by adding in a young Palpatine clone as well, which takes place in Dark Empire 1 and 2. So there's a lot of things happening here. They really want to take inspiration from that. I'm not quite sure how I feel about this format, where they're going to have 4 hours worth of scenes of The Rise of Skywalker, where each and every scene is going to have a little header at the beginning of what's canon and what's not canon. I don't know what you guys think about that. I just think it might be a little bit messy and confusing. Of course, it won't be all that confusing for hardcore fans, but I think that for casual fans, they're going to be like, what does this really mean? What order is the canon going to be placed in? That's all going to be dependent on how organized Disney really wants to make this come out to be. So, overall, I think that they could have prevented all of this right from the get-go if they just had a planned story and they stuck with Matt Smith's design from the very beginning, but this is what they want to do. This is what they're moving forward with. Bob Chapek was very inspired from the new cut of Justice League. He loved that, and he wants to do something very similar, except a little bit different, where different scenes are going to be labeled as canon or non-canon with a header on top. So overall, I think that it's a very interesting attempt to change the ending of Episode 9 and the fate of Palpatine once again. So overall, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.